last International Women's Day, which, as we all know, is March 8th, did anyone else get inundated with these short form videos asking and interviewing athletes who the greatest women's athlete of all time is? Because I got a lot of them. And they all said Serena Williams, which is interesting, but it makes sense. Serena's a great player. She's a phenomenal tennis player. She's massive cultural impact. But for example, this is the Pittsburgh Penguins, the hockey team, men's hockey team. And the first guy said Serena. Second guy said Serena. Third guy said Serena. And I'm thinking, wow, they all really, I guess it must be Serena Williams, right? Because all of them are saying that it's Serena Williams. And then the fourth guy said it was Caitlin Clark. And that got me thinking a little bit harder, because Caitlin Clark is a really good basketball player. She's a great basketball player. She's nowhere near the best basketball player. When she was in college, sure, but she's in the WNBA now, and she's just nowhere near there, right? And if she's not the best basketball player, how can she be the best athlete, right? You just can't be one without being the other. So I thought, maybe these people, these athletes that are not being interviewed, they're not thinking about it in depth. They're just being interviewed by the social media team, and they need to say something, so they say something. And they just say one of the first women's athlete that comes into their mind, which definitely explains Serena, definitely explains Caitlin Clark. So what I wanted to do with this video was kind of think through, drill down, have a conversation, and decide who the women's GOAT is. And spoiler alert, it's not Serena. Welcome to my channel. I make medium depth dives on topics I think are interesting. The sources are cited below. If I say something wrong based on those sources, feel free to make a comment. I might pin it. Additionally, if you have an interesting topic, let me know. I might make a video about it. So, the methodology for this video is that each woman that I'm going to be discussing and going over will get 3 scores. She will get her accolades rated. Her accolades are basically how much did she win. What did she accomplish over the course of her career? How much did she just win? The indisputability. This is how obvious is it that you are the GOAT of your sport. How much clearly are you better than everyone else who's played your sport throughout the history of your sport? Because if you're the GOAT of all athletes, you have to be the GOAT of your sport. And clearly, I think it has to be no question. Third score is their aura score. This is just how cool is she, right? And this is very subjective. All of these are going to be rated subjectively. This one's the most subjective. It will be the tiebreaker. The women will be sorted into tiers based on their accolades and their indisputability, and then I will move up those tiers based on their perceived aura, being perceived by me. There are 5 tiers. The lowest tier. Unfortunately, I am American. I do not understand your sport. I'm not commenting on it. However, you get a shout out. Second tier, maybe they're not even actually the GOAT of their sport, but they are someone that is certainly worth noting. A low tier GOAT. This is someone who is probably the greatest of all time at their sport, but their accomplishments don't quite match up with other GOATs, with other greatest of all times. Fourth tier, second to last tier, second to best tier is I wish it could be them. I look at this athlete and I look at her accomplishments and I go, man, I wish I could call you the best of the best. But unfortunately I cannot, because the final tier is one woman on her own. She's the greatest of all time, of all the greatest of all time. She's the GOAT of GOATs. Alright, so we're going to go up through, starting with, unfortunately, I'm American and I cannot rate your sport, and we're going to end with the GOAT of all GOATs. Beginning with a disclaimer. It may become obvious to you that I don't really follow a lot of all lot of these sports. My results have mostly come from Googling things. If you have disagreements, feel free to hash them out in the comments. Also, you can take everything I say with a grain of salt. Let it rock. First athlete in, unfortunately I'm American, so I don't understand this sport. This is Portia Woodman-Wycliffe. She plays rugby. I don't understand rugby. So she doesn't get a score on the accolades, and she doesn't get a score on the indisputability. She does, however, get aura 3 out of 3. Why does she get aura 3 out of 3? Because she's good at rugby, and rugby is cool. You will find very quickly that I think that some sports just carry a certain amount of aura with them, and rugby is certainly one of them. If you are the GOAT of rugby, that's really cool. Moving forward. The next and final sport that I will outwardly say I do not understand, because I'm American, is cricket. This is Elise Perry, who, from what I can tell, is the GOAT of cricket. Her accolades are not scored. Her indisputability is not scored. Her aura is 3 out of 3. Because not only is she the GOAT at cricket, not only is she the best women's cricketer ever, she also was played in the FIFA World Cup for Australia. Meaning she is not only the best cricketer of all time, she is world-class level for soccer. And being a multi-sport athlete on that level is something that I honestly cannot think of a single other athlete has ever done. And that's awesome. That's super cool. You get a 3 out of 3 for this. Moving forward, out of the sports that my American brain does not understand, 2 women who are certainly worth shout-outs, but might not even be GOATs of their sport. We're starting with Sifan Hassan. She is a runner, specializing, as I'll note, from 5K to marathon, and she's incredible. So her accolades, however, are 1 out of 3. So remember, we're starting low and we're moving up. Her accolades are 1 out of 3. She has 3 Olympic gold medals and 2 world champs. Now, obviously, any athlete should be happy with 3 gold medals and 2 world champs. However, it does not place you highly among the GOATs. She does get extra points for her distances ranging from 5K to, because that is an incredibly vast gap. That is 3 miles to 26.2 miles, right? That's incredible. To be world level at all of those is truly incredible. Her indisputability is also 1 out of 3. I will have another track athlete above her, and I will have other runners above her. So unfortunately, she gets 1 out of 3. Additionally, just to give the title of track GOAT to anybody is difficult because there are a lot of different track events. Do you give it to a 100-meter specialist? Do you give it to a miler? It's difficult, right? So she ranks at 1 out of 3 on that. Her aura is not scored. I'll be honest, I don't really know anything about her. All right, moving forward. Another maybe not GOAT. This is Courtney Dauwalter. Courtney Dauwalter is an ultramarathoner, and she's also half the reason that I wanted to make this video. I wanted to talk about Courtney Dauwalter so bad, okay? So you're going to have to buckle up for this part. Ultra running is any distance that is longer than a marathon, so longer than 26.2. It is commonly run on trails, and the most popular distance for the professionals to race at, the distance that gets the most attention, is 100 miles, which is about equivalent to 4 marathons. Okay? Courtney Dauwalter has run many 100-mile races. She has run 200-mile races. She has performed very well across the gamut. Her accolades are 2 out of 3, and that is largely resting on this one feat that I will not shut up about, though she has other incredible accomplishments. The one feat is she's the only runner to ever win the Triple Crown in 1 year. And you may ask yourself what the Triple Crown is. And about 10 years ago, if you would have talked to someone about the Triple Crown, they would not have understood what you were talking about, because the idea of it didn't exist until she did it. Okay? The Triple Crown is 3 100-mile races. 3 100-mile races that move around in the calendar a little bit, but the year that she completed it, they were about 8 weeks apart from each other. The first race is the Western States 100, which is the biggest and most competitive 100-mile race in the United States. The second race is the Hard Rock 100, which is a significantly harder 100-mile race to run. So much so that the course record, the women's course record for Hard Rock 100 is 10 hours longer than the course record for Western States 100, with the Western States course record being around 15-ish hours, and the Hard Rock 100 course record being somewhere around 25 hours. That is so much longer, that is so much harder, okay? So the most competitive race in the US and one of the hardest races in the US. And then you follow that up with the most competitive race in the world, UTMB. That is the biggest European race. It is also 100 miles. It is in the Italian and French Alps. And American athletes do not have a good record there because the Europeans tend to do very well. And Courtney, being American, dominated it. She won. She won all 3 of these races in 1 year, in 8 weeks. And to give you the context of how incredible it is to run, to win 100, or to win 3 100-milers within 8 weeks of each other, I want to talk about marathoners. Marathoners, professional marathon runners, tend to only run or race 2 to 3 marathons a year, because racing a marathon is incredibly difficult on your body, and recovery takes it takes months to be fully back to 100%. Weeks or months, okay? Courtney Dauwalter raced 300 miles of races within 2 months, and she won all 3 of those races. She is incredible. She is incredible. No one, again, the idea of the Triple Crown did not exist before Courtney went for it, and people still don't go for the Triple Crown. I can't tell you of another person who's even tried it, and she won it. She did it. She won all 3. The closest anyone in my mind has done this is this year. Tara Dower ran Western States, and she ran Hard Rock. She placed top 5 or top 10 in Western States, and I think 3rd at Hard Rock. And that's an incredible achievement for Tara Dower, who is an incredible athlete. She holds the fastest note. She's the fastest person to ever complete the Appalachian Trail. An incredible runner. Has absolutely nothing on this feat, right? Absolutely incredible. Additionally, Courtney Dauwalter, her indisputability. I ranted about this the whole time. However, her indisputability is 1 out of 3 because there's another ultra runner above her. I actually have someone else above her. I wish I could give Courtney the GOAT status, but I can't, and we will get to the reason why I can't later. Her aura, however, is 3 out of 3 for 2 reasons. One is the term pain cave, which I wrote that she originated it. I'm not sure that she did. However, she was important in its popularization. The idea of the pain cave is that when you are in these long, hard races, there's a time or a period or a moment where you are experiencing almost nothing but the pain, right? The torment of being 60 miles in and knowing that you have 40 miles left and it's all uphill, right? And it's just pain. Courtney embraces the idea of the pain cave. She says that her goal, when she gets to the point in the race where she starts entering the pain cave, she says her goal is to decorate the walls. And that is badass. That is badass. That is so fucking cool. Okay, so she almost got a negative aura point for saying that on the Joe Rogan podcast, but I'm choosing to ignore that. The other reason that she has 3 out of 3 aura is her court shorts, the shorts that she was wearing. I promise this will be the only time I could comment on women's fashion. You can see that her shorts are knee length. And if you look up pictures of Courtney Dauwalter, she will always be wearing knee length shorts. And if you've ever bought women's clothes or women's shorts or shopped for women's shorts, you'll know that it is impossible to find shorts like this. And especially if you're buying athletic wear, they're just really short, and Courtney doesn't like that, so she wears long shorts, and it's just become part of her brand. They're so popular. Courtney's shorts get called court shorts, and it's cool that she does that because she doesn't care. Okay, we will move on from Courtney Dauwalter now, and we will talk about another person who might not even be the GOAT of their sport, and that woman is Serena. Don't be mad. Please don't be mad. I promise it will make sense. Serena is not the GOAT of tennis. Okay. Her accolades are 2 out of 3. Let me explain her accolades, because she has incredible accolades. She has won like crazy. She spent 319 weeks ranked number 1 in the world. That is third most of any women. And 319 weeks is a very long time. For an athlete, that's a very long time. That is 6 years, right? She spent 186 consecutive weeks ranked number 1. That's 3 years. 3 years in a row she was the best and no one could touch her, right? That is tied for first among all women. She has 23 Grand Slam titles. Grand Slams are the most important tennis tournaments of the year. 23 is the most that any woman has. Her win percentage at these Grand Slam tournaments is 86.76. That's incredible. If you are a professional tennis player and you are in a Grand Slam, the biggest stage of your career, and you go against Serena Williams, you have a less than 14% chance of winning. That is truly ridiculous. That is absolutely incredible. Okay? This is an incredible athlete. All of these numbers are an incredible athlete. Her indisputability as the GOAT of tennis, however, is 1 out of 3 because there is another tennis athlete that I have above her. And if you go to online spaces that are dedicated to tennis fans, they will not put Serena Williams as the GOAT. That's just how it is. And so Serena, sadly, not the GOAT of GOATs. I'm making the claim she's not even the best of all time at tennis. Her aura, I will say, 3 out of 3. She's at the top of this ranking, this tier. 3 out of 3, it's Serena Williams. It's 3 out of 3. I'll be honest, I thought about docking her a point for the GLP-1 commercials, because that was just kind of cringe and weird. I don't know why Serena Williams needs to do that. Anyway, but then I remembered that I just remembered her in the Super Bowl halftime show, and that was awesome. I also remembered her cameo in The Glass Onion, and I thought that was really funny when I watched it. So she keeps the 3 out of 3 points. Okay, moving on to the next tier. Low tier GOATs. They're the greatest of all time at their sport, but they are not distinguished enough to be above other greatest of all times. This is Steffi Graf, who I claim is the greatest women's tennis player of all time. Her accolades are 2 out of 3. You will see a number of similarities with Serena. Steffi Graf spent 377 weeks ranked number 1. That is the most of all women. That is more than Serena. Serena had 319 weeks ranked at number 1. She had the third most number of weeks out of all women. 377 weeks is almost a year longer. So that's substantial, I think. Steffi Graf had 186 consecutive weeks ranked number 1. That number might seem familiar to you because it's the exact same number that Serena has. Steffi Graf has 22 Grand Slam titles. That number might seem familiar because Serena has 23. Okay? These are the hairs that we're splitting. Steffi Graf has an 89.75% winning percentage at Grand Slams. That number might feel familiar because Serena Williams had 86%, or 86.7%. They're literally 3 percentage points off. Like, this is so close. And it's so close, like, the only thing that it has significant separation is the most amount of weeks ranked at number 1. Steffi Graf's indisputability as a GOAT is 2 out of 3. She just seems to be the closest to a consensus that I could find. Like, if you go into online spaces with tennis fans, it just seems like it's Steffi Graf. Her aura is not scored because I didn't really figure out anything else about her. Moving forward, another low-tier GOAT. This is Annika Sorenstam, the GOAT of women's golf. Her accolades are 2 out of 3. She has the best score in a single round ever in the LPGA with 59. Unheard of, obviously, because it's only been done once. That's a truly, truly unbelievable score. She was the 8-time Player of the Year. I'm treating Player of the Year like an MVP. 8-time Player of the Year. That's another level. She won 10 major championships. Major championships, like Grand Slams, happen multiple times a year. They do. I just looked it up. It was right. That's correct. Yeah. So the third most amount of tour wins while only playing 10 years. That's a pretty short career span, especially for someone on the top of the game, right? And that also makes the 8-time Player of the Year mark so much more impressive. Because there were only 2 years where she wasn't the best player. That's incredible. And she was ranked number 1 for the first 60 weeks that the ranking existed. They started the ranking towards the end of her career. She would have certainly had significantly more weeks ranked number 1 if she actually played during a time when the ranking existed for the entirety of her career. Her indisputability as the GOAT of golf is 2 out of 3. There are a few other people for the argument that you will see occasionally online. I also believe we could be on watch for Nelly Korda to take this place. Her aura is not scored because I don't really know much about her. Another low-tier GOAT is Ann Trayson. I went all crazy about Courtney Dauwalter for a while, and I think it should be a compliment to Ann Trayson that I could go off about how awesome Courtney Dauwalter is, and then I would put Ann Trayson above her. Okay? Ann Trayson is an ultramarathoner, American ultramarathon runner from early in the sport's history, who has 3 out of 3 accolades, for sure. She has won Western States 14 times. 14 times. Western States, as I said, is the most competitive 100-mile race in the U.S. Probably the second most competitive 100-mile race in the world, behind UTMB, which at this time, not a lot of Americans were going to. So, Ann Trayson winning that 14 times is absolutely ridiculous. That is unheard of. Simply, you can't do that. You just cannot do that. Additionally, she had a number of records that held for a very long time, including her course record for the Leadville 100, which is one of the more storied 100-mile races in the U.S. Her course record for that course held from 1994 to 2025. That's 30 years. To hold a record in running for 30 years is incredible. Especially over this time period, and especially over a distance like this. If you follow running, marathons, ultramarathons, anything like that, the records are just dropping. They're just constantly dropping because the shoe technology has gotten so good, and the sports science, the science of training, the heat acclimation, the cooling science, the carbs intake, the hydration is all so much better that athletes today are probably, just putting all that in, they're probably 5 to 10% faster on a baseline. And I pulled that number out of thin air, but the shoes themselves make you like 3% faster. Okay, so you put all the other stuff in there, it gets there. So that means that she is probably at least at minimum 4 or 5% faster than every other athlete that ran Leadville 100 until last year. For 30 years, she just completely dominated the field. That's truly incredible. Her indisputability as the GOAT of ultra running is a 1 out of 3 because a lot of people like me really, really like Courtney Dauwalter. Also, Courtney Dauwalter gets some recency bias. However, competition in the 90s was so much lower for ultra running. Every year, even now, every race that you see is the most competitive field that there's ever been. And so you do have to take some away from Ann Trayson just for the era that she was in. I do believe, based on the fact that she completely dominated her era and also held records for such a long time, that if she ran in the same time as Courtney Dauwalter, I do think we can maybe say that she would still be better. But it's hard to say. I put her as my GOAT. This one's up for grabs. Her aura is 3 out of 3 because she, at 65 years old, walked an ultra marathon with walker and rheumatoid arthritis, and this is what she looked like at the end. This is awesome. This is just like the coolest thing I've ever seen, I think. It took her days to do this, and she walked the whole way, and that's so cool. Yeah, that's incredible. Continuing, we're into the next tier. Second to last tier. I wish I could call her the GOAT of GOATs, okay? And there are multiple of these women. First off being Sydney McLaughlin-Lerone. Now, I said that there would be a track athlete above Sifan Hassan. And it's Sydney McLaughlin-Lerone. Her accolades are 3 out of 3. Why are her accolades 3 out of 3? Because she has the 6 most recent world records on the 400-meter hurdles. All 6 of those most recent world records are all her. And that's unimaginable. That is dominance on another level. Okay? She also has the fastest 400 meter in 40 years. Now, just for the 400 meter record to stand for 40 years is pretty crazy. It's a little more likely for shorter distances to stand than for longer distances to stand, as far as I understand it. But the fastest in 40 years is beyond generational, right? That's multiple generations. So that's truly incredible. And to set 5 world records in a row, to set the world record, and then to do it again, and then to do it again, and again, and again, and again, that's unbelievable. She also, on top of that, won Olympic gold 4 times and is a 5-time world champion. Her indisputability as the GOAT of track is 2 out of 3 because it is simply, as I've said, very difficult to have a track GOAT, but she dominates at 2 of the hardest events, 400 meters and 400 meter hurdles. Those are, I think, often cited as just simply some of the hardest events there are, right? Her aura is not scored because I don't really know anything about her. This picture is good aura, though. The next athlete who I wish it could be her, Simone Biles. I bet a lot of people actually had her as their number 1, but I don't think she is, quite frankly. I think her accolades are 3 out of 3. She is a 23-time world champ. 23 times. That is 23 world championships. I don't know if me just saying the number over and over again is going to transmit into your brain how incredible that is to me, how unimaginable and like awe-inspiring that is to win the championship 23 times, which not only is a statement of how long she was dominating gymnastics, but also how many different events she had, because I'm pretty sure she did not compete for 23 years, right? She also has 7 Olympic golds. That's just another level. Her indisputability, however, is 2 out of 3 because it turns out that gymnastics has a really stacked history of really incredible athletes. For example, Larissa Latnina has 14 Olympic golds. And if Larissa Latnina has 14 golds and Simone Biles has 7, it is very difficult to make Simone Biles the GOAT of all GOATs. Quite simply. Simone Biles, her aura, it is 2 out of 3. It would be 3 out of 3 if she divorced her husband, though. I am willing to negotiate on this. Her husband is a loser, and unfortunately, it takes some of the shine off of her, in my opinion. You might disagree. That's totally fair. That's just kind of my personal opinion on it, though. If he would have never started talking on podcasts, her aura would be 3 out of 3 for sure. Because this is the only thing that really marks against her. Editor jump scare here. I think I was probably not fair to Simone Biles in this, partially with her aura ranking. I gave everyone else an aura of 3 or not scored, and for Simone to be the only one that gets a 2 is kind of messed up, especially when it's just because her husband said something dumb. So I'm going to bump her aura up to 3 because, not just because I feel bad about marking her down because of her husband, but also because coming back from the twisties and doing really well in the Olympics after having a case of the twisties is really awesome. And also she just has a really significant cultural impact in the US and maybe beyond. Additionally, I do here give Simone a few less points because of Larissa Latnina, but I will later dismiss Larissa Latnina's accolades because she was in a pre-drug testing era. That's not ideal. I do stand by the Simone's indisputability score because there are a lot of great gymnasts. For example, Nadia Comaneci, I think. I did see someone describe gymnastics as having a pre-Nadia era and a post-Nadia era. Hopefully I saved that so that you can see it in the description. But that's all that I have to say additionally on Simone. Apologies. Aura 3 out of 3. Others maintained with a minor apology. Back to the video. Okay, another I wish it could be her. This is Marie-Philippe Poulin. Sorry, that name is pronounced as a French-Canadian would, which means I don't know how to do it. She is often called MPP for short. MPP, her accolades are 2 out of 3. Because this first thing I show you is incredible. She began her professional career at the age of 16. At the age of 16, she played half of the season. When she played half of the season at the age of 16, she won Rookie of the Year. And she placed second place in MVP voting. Which means that she was 16 years old, maybe missing a game to get her driver's license and write a history report. And the MVP voters agreed that is the second best player in this league. Do you remember what you were doing at 16 years old? Because MPP was the second best player in women's hockey. She also never placed below third in the Olympics or the World Cup. which is really awesome. Now, she was part of the Canadian women's team, the captain of the Canadian women's team, and there's a chance she's getting pulled up by her team on that. Not that she isn't an all-time great or the GOAT, but that's an awesome accolade. Gets a little... I haven't looked into the strength of her team. Within league play, she is a 5-time MVP, a 3-time league champion, and a 4-time leading scorer. That's incredible. 5-time MVP, 3 championships, and 4 leading scorers. Her indisputability as the GOAT is 3 out of 3. In what I could find online, almost everyone takes her over another hockey player, Wick. People will mention Wick, but say it's got to be MPP. Her aura is 3 out of 3 for a few reasons. The first one is that her nickname is Captain Clutch. That's cool. We need to bring back nicknames for athletes, and I think this is a good place to start. She's called Captain Clutch in part because she has on two separate occasions, she had the Olympic gold medal winning shot. That's awesome. What a great story. That's incredible. Next athlete. This is Marta, the Brazilian soccer player. Her accolades are 2 out of 3. She has the most World Cup goals by any woman. She was Player of the Year 5 consecutive years. That means for 5 straight years, people went, she's the best. There was a period of half a decade where it was undeniable that she was the best player. Truly incredible. She won her league 4 years in a row. That is utter dominance. Unfortunately, she has 2 out of 3 and not 3 out of 3 because she never won the World Cup. Now, MPP might have been pulled up by her team. Marta may have been pulled down by the team. I don't really know. And I did not look into it. However, that leaves her at a 2 out of 3. Her indisputability, however, is 3 out of 3 because she is consistently ranked number 1 everywhere I see online. Some people will mention Mia Hamm, but I think that's less about her being better than Marta and her having a strong impact on the culture of the women's game in the US. That's kind of my interpretation of what I've seen. Marta's aura is 3 out of 3 because she goes by one name, and that's really cool. Okay, we're on to our second last athlete, and I do really wish she could be the one of one. But she's not quite, and you'll see why. This is A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson is the best basketball player of all time. Her accolades are 2 out of 3. We will get to the asterisk. Her accolades are 2 out of 3. She has 4 MVPs. She is the favorite to win the MVP this year. She has 3 championships. 2 of those 3 championships, she was the finals MVP, and she has 2 defensive players of the year. There's so many things to say about this. 4-time MVP in basketball. In a team sport, MVP voting gets affected by your team. If your team is not great, is not that good, you won't be the MVP. So to be the MVP 4 times is incredible, because your team will not always be that good. To have 2 defensive players of the year on top of 4 MVPs is unheard of, because in basketball, in order to be the MVP, you have to be an elite offensive player. And that takes a lot of energy. You have to be skilled, you have to be gifted, you have to be talented, you have to put in all the effort. And then, most of the time, MVP level players on offense will intentionally play less intensively on defense, making them slightly worse defenders than what is their potential. And that's an intentional choice from them and their coaches. That's strategic. That's not laziness. But in order to carry the load on offense, they have to let their other teammates pick up the slack on defense. That is apparently not true of A'ja Wilson, because she has 2 defensive players of the year. That's amazing. I love that. She is able to carry the load on offense up to the point of being the MVP, but she is also capable of, at the same time, being the best defensive player in the league. Her indisputability is 3 out of 3, and I say this because the long-standing best of all time was Diana Taurasi. She has 1 MVP and 2 Finals MVP. Asia Wilson is already eclipsing those numbers, and she's not done. Her aura is 3 out of 3 because basketball is aura. Being good at basketball gives aura. Additionally, the asterisk, we're in her 9th season. We're in her 9th season. She has completed 8 seasons and won 4 MVPs. That is half of the time. Half of the seasons that she has completed, she has won the MVP. If she wins the MVP this year, which she is the most likely player to win it right now, she is favored to do so, she will have won the MVP more than she has not. In a team sport. Now, people like Annika Sorenstam has won Player of the Year 8 years while playing 10 years. That's it's one thing to do that as an individual sport athlete, but to do that as a team sport athlete, 5 out of 9 instead of 8 out of 10, to do it as a team sport athlete is a completely different thing because your team also needs to be good. And that is something that only a certain level of player can drag their team up to being that good consistently for this many times. There are a lot of MVP level players who, if they had the right team around them, they would be the MVP. There are only a few players who will be a consistent MVP candidate no matter how good their team is. Okay? And that's how team sport MVPs work. That being said, we have an individual athlete as the GOAT of GOATs. Because I simply could not put her anywhere else. And now is your last chance to guess. It's an individual sport athlete. It is Katie Ledecky. It has to be Katie Ledecky. There's literally, I think, zero argument that can be anyone other than Katie Ledecky. Okay? Katie Ledecky is a monster. A swimming, a machine. Fish DNA or something. Like, she is otherworldly. Let me show you her accolades. 3 out of 3, obviously. She's the 3rd most decorated female Olympian of all time. She has 14 Olympic medals and 9 golds. Okay? Now, I did mention a woman with 14 golds. That was Larissa Latnina. She won 14 golds. She also competed before they tested for drugs, quite frankly. So, yeah. Maybe that counts against Simone Biles, and maybe I made a mistake with that. I'm probably not going to re-script this whole thing, but that's where we're at. Katie Ledecky has 14 Olympic medals and 9 golds. She has the most career individual championships, which is to say, outside of the Olympics, she has won more than any other swimmer ever. And she has set a world record 17 times. 17 times. To set... it's hard... I can't explain how incredible 17-time... Like, you get it, right? 17 world records. Also, by the way, 12 of the times that she did that, she was beating her own record. So when I was talking about how awesome it was that Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone broke her own record 5 times, Katie Ledecky did it 12 times. She did that 12 times. More than double. Okay, this is another level, frankly. Her indisputability is 3 out of 3. No one else has a shot, man. Like, it's Katie Ledecky. You can't approach her in swimming at all. I don't even think there's an argument for anyone else. Her aura, I didn't score it because I didn't fucking need to. She just wins. She's the GOAT. There's no one else. Quite simply, there is no one else. Yeah. My sources are in the description. I like to give further reading for my videos based on my sources, but this one doesn't have any further readings. Go watch some Katie Ledecky highlights. And spoiler alert, they'll end with her winning the race and no one else is in the camera because she's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, that's the whole video. Go watch Katie Ledecky highlights or Asia Wilson or Simone Biles or any of these other women. I'm sure all their other highlight reels are unbelievable. Thanks.